My name is Stephanie Bird Morris. I'm a 14-year breast cancer survivor. I was diagnosed, well, actually 15 years. I was diagnosed at the end of December 2008 with progesterone and estrogen positive breast cancer. And I have the BRCA gene 2 mutation, and it was in 11 of my lymph nodes, so the cancer was aggressive and it was on the move. Finding out the BRCA2 mutation means it wasn't a matter of if I was going to get breast cancer, it was basically a matter of when. I've been genetically predisposed to have breast cancer, and that mutation came from my father's side of the family. When I was diagnosed, I had my first mammogram at age 40, and then my 41st birthday came around, and I usually decided to do it on my birthday month where I would remember. I was getting dressed, and sister's doing what they do. My sister barges in on me because she wanted to get in the room, and she kept looking at my breast, and she said, "Something doesn't look right on your right side, sister. You should get that checked out. Did you have your mammogram for this year?" And I said, "No, I'm late." And then she just said, "Get your mammogram. Let's make sure everything's okay." And we went about our business. They looked at something. They called back a bunch of other people, and they looked at something again, and no one was telling me anything. And a week later, they called me back and said, "We need a biopsy. We saw a mass on your right breast, and we want to biopsy it." And they said just one spot in my breast, but it was actually in 3 different locations in my right breast. And they biopsied all 3, which was horrendous. Within a couple of days from that date, they were calling me on a Friday night, evening, telling me that I had cancer, and didn't tell me what kind, what was next, or anything. They told me that on a weekend and basically let me stew in that mess. I was just shocked. I called my mother, and she gave me a response I wasn't expecting. She said, "What do you want me to do about that?" So I called my sisters, and they said I have breast cancer. And I said, "But I don't want to do anything about it. I just want to go on, and whatever happens, happens." And I'm the youngest of 3 girls, and my middle sister said, "Oh no, when's your next doctor's appointment? Get ready for the fight of your life. We're going to handle this." And she declared herself my caregiver at that time. Come that Monday morning, I was calling to see where do I go to next. They hadn't called me. No one called me back for like a day or 2, and then a social worker called me. And she just immediately started apologizing. She goes, "That's not how it's supposed to go down. They could have waited till I got back on Monday. I was going to call you into my office and sit down and have a conversation with you." I basically freaked out. I'm like, "No, this is not happening to me. I'm going to work. I'm going to keep going. It's going to go away. I'm not going to do anything about it." And then yet I have my middle sister blowing me up on the phone. "What have they told you? When's your next appointment? Why aren't you answering us back?" We're all 3 girls were military, but this one's the one that spent majority of her life in the military. So she was like, "I'm in charge, and basically you can't deny these orders." I just wanted it to go away. I wanted her to go away. I wanted the diagnosis to go away, and I didn't want to deal with it. I was in denial. We got in to the surgeon, and the surgeon told me basically it was in 3 separate places in my breast, and that a lumpectomy wasn't a good choice because it's deep in my breast. And he says what we do when we do a lumpectomy is we basically, lack of better words, scoop the cancer out, and then we scoop a clean margin around it. And since it was in 3 different places going diagonally, he said, "I cannot." He said, "Your breast would be so mutated that it would be traumatic to keep looking at that." I was in shock. My thing was because I was raised by a strong Black woman. I had 2 older sisters. They're strong women, that you were just going to go through it. And there was no time to discuss it. You just like, whatever they tell you to do, and just get on with life. And February 9th is when they could get me on the schedule. And I still didn't want to do it. I just wanted to live my life, roll the dice where they may land, and raise my 2 children, which I was doing. The trauma didn't hit me till later. And then when I saw the surgeon, I said, "Okay, I think I'm okay with what you're telling me," but I picked up a book called The Breast Book, and it was a thick book, And I started reading, and it's okay, it's time to educate myself about it. So I made the decision, okay, you're going to remove the whole right breast because you can't save it. So let's just remove the left one. And this surgeon told me no, he couldn't justify taking a healthy breast. And I'm like, really? I said, from what I'm reading, it could show up in the left breast later, and I want to be done with this once and for all. And he said no. So I proceeded to go around him and went to another surgeon, then realizing that surgeon was his backup and would tell me the same thing. So my sister's like, no, you're just procrastinating. You want them to tell you something different. You're just going to get the right one removed. At that time, I just threw up my hands because no one's listening to me, and I just went and rolled with the punches. I was left with this left breast and nothing on the right, which every time I went to change the drain or anything, it's like I felt like I was re-traumatized because I wanted both of them gone. They gave me a camisole, a little, looked like a shoulder pad, and did remotely resemble my right breast and didn't bring back balance, and it still left me feeling like, something's wrong and I'm mutated. They gave me 6 weeks to heal from the surgery, and then the chemotherapy would start after that. It was either between 6 and 8 rounds, and that means every 3 weeks I would get a round of chemo. I'm like, wow, this is a lot. And the chemo made me so sick, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to at least leave me alone. But my sister wouldn't go away. Every 3 weeks she would come with my niece, who was only 7. And my niece was so cute. I call her my ride or die chick. She's like, no, Mom, take me out of school. My TT needs me. And I'm going to be with my TT when she goes get that poison in her body. And that's what she understood. And her being as sweet as she is, that helped me go back. But the second week of chemo, I was so sick, and I'm like, something's not right. And I told my oncologist, I'm like, does this make everybody this sick? She just said, the oncologist said, you just need to just do what I say and follow directions. I'm like, no. I said, is this medicine even designed for me? And she looked at me and she said, what do you mean? I said, I'm Black. And I see a lot of white people go through here, and I'm wondering if they're getting as sick as I am, and is there a clinical trial? And she's like, what do you know about clinical trials? I said, you would use cutting edge medicine on me and you would study me. And that means you would follow me more closely. Well, there's no clinical trials for you. So I didn't like that answer. I made me an appointment with another oncologist. And my sister didn't like that because she's military. And whenever somebody's in a position of authority of you, you do what they say. And you don't go looking for answers. You do what they say. I had another oncologist tell me, unfortunately, you need to start the clinical trial before you start the chemo. And you're entering your 3rd round of chemo. And she goes, and I don't know of any clinical trials for you, but that's a good question. When I went back to my 3rd round of chemo, the oncologist said, did you go see somebody else? I said, yes. I didn't like what you were telling me. She goes, well, that's not what you're supposed to do. I said, lady, do you have cancer? She said, no. I said, have you ever had cancer? Breast cancer? No. I said, so you can't tell me what I'm supposed to be doing and how I'm supposed to be feeling. I said, until you sit down in that chair and get that poison pumped into you, don't tell me what I'm supposed to be doing. We fought. I had 7 or 6 different medications I was supposed to take in between chemos, some to get the white cells up, the red blood cells up, the shot. I got that 7 medications down to 3. For one, I didn't have the money to continue to pay for the copay. And 2, I felt better. And my white cell blood count, without those additional medicines, were still going up. So that let me know that that medicine wasn't necessarily designed for me. The oncologist got mad. The oncologist asked me, was I trying to die since I wasn't following the medicine regimen in between chemo? I said, no, I'm trying to live through this and live my best life through this. And you're not listening to me. My son wanted to go to the oncologist and ask her, was she giving me anything that was making me mean? And out of the 7 medicines, the one that I could not stop was the steroids. Because the steroids, from what I understood, it was there to keep my body from not rejecting the chemotherapy, and it would help me be less sick. And the oncologist told him, yes, I am giving you your mother something that would possibly make her need, and it's steroid. And he just cried. He goes, I just want my mom back. And at that point, I decided I wasn't going to take the steroids because I wanted him to have the mom that he had before all of this as much as I could. The fourth round of chemo, the testing my blood, they like, no, you need to put the steroids back in your regimen. So I just told my son, I will try my best not to be mean, but unfortunately, your mom has to take this medicine. I identify as a strong Black woman. Once I got the diagnosis, I guess I was in it for my family, for my children, that I was supposed to show up and just go through what I'm going through, but without questioning, because I am Black. And I definitely think there was a race thing there, and they're like looking at me like, how dare you question us? And how dare you even ask for a clinical trial? And I was left to stew in that. So every time I would go into the doctor to get the chemo, I would look around and I wouldn't see anybody that looked like me. So I asked the doctor, I think my fourth round, I said, is there a support group? And she said, yes, you can call this number and go to a support group. She goes, I think that's a good idea. That'll help you with your frustrations. Went to the support group, and here we go. There is no one that looks like me. They're either white or Asian, and they're all having these wonderful experiences with their surgeon and their oncologist. And the woman that led the support group, I pulled her to the side. I said, am I the only Black woman in Sacramento County that has breast cancer? Where are the women that look like me? I said, you don't even have any brown women, let alone Black women in here, and they're all having this great experience. I'm not. And she sighed and she said, I knew you were going to ask me that. And yes, there is a breast cancer support group for Black women. Here's her name and number. Feel free to call and she'll tell you when and where. And she said, if you go there, are you coming back? I said, I don't know. Probably not. And I just left it at that. She was, well, please consider coming back. I said, I'll consider it, but I said, thank you, but we'll see. That's when I found my way to Carrie's Touch. I really didn't know I had trouble with my mental health until I found Carrie's Touch, found validation, but I was still feeling like I was in a bad dream and no one was listening to me. And it was time for radiation. At that point, I dismissed everybody. I dismissed my sister, told my niece, you can't miss 6 weeks of school. I got to do the 6 weeks. I'm okay. And I was just wanting to get through the 6 weeks of radiation, Monday through Friday, and then get back to work. By the second week of getting radiation, I told my radiation oncologist that my skin is burning and it's on fire. And he's like, well, that's normal. It's like basically like a sunburn from the inside out. He goes, that's the best way I can describe it. He said, so what you're feeling is normal. I said, but look at my skin. I said, I don't think this is normal. And he goes, you'll be fine, and you just need to keep going. And I thought he would listen to me because he was African American. I said, if anybody's going to listen to me, he's going to listen to me. He didn't. The third week, my skin started to bubble and ooze off of my body like cheese slices off of hot bread. And I wasn't going to go back. I was done mentally, physically. I'm like, they're going to kill me. And I said, this is not normal. I'm not going back. Dr. Reverend Tammy here called me and she says, when's your next radiation appointment? I said, well, tomorrow. She says, well, what time? And I just wanted her to go away at this point. And I told her what time. She was at my house a half an hour before and took me to my radiation appointment. Well, the oncologist said that they had me right where they wanted me to be in treatment. Tammy interjection, no, she's asking you for a break. She can't take anymore. And I didn't cry. I was just like, just there. And Tammy was my voice. Because once again, there they go, not listening to me. And Tammy's like, can you give her a break? And I promise you, she will come back and finish this treatment. But right now, she can't take anymore. And come to find out, I thought I had 2nd-degree burns. They were 3rd-degree burns. The burning was horrific. And I thought the chemo was bad. This was worse than the chemo. So we finished the radiation, And Tammy's like, your radiation's over. Are you going back to work? And I said, yes. I wanted to be normal. And Tammy's like, please don't go back to work right away. I'm like, no, Tammy, I need to pay my bills. I'm okay. I'm going to be fine. And being a strong black woman that I was, I kept going and I didn't listen. And I got back to work and I fell apart. I'd sit in my office and cry, not a crier. I couldn't remember anything that was presented to me, and the job had a lot of details, and the rules and regulations were constantly changing. It's like I had no more leave. And I'm like, what to do? What am I to do? So I kept going. And then I found myself in a deep depression. And I'm like, I want to die. So I went to my family practice doctor, who was good, but he didn't know what to do with me. And he's like, well, you're through with the treatment and you look fine, so I can't justify taking you off of work again. I eventually tried to take my own life. I ended up in a mental health hospital. And they're looking at me like, you look okay, you look fine, why are you here? Why did you try to take your own life? I'm like, I don't know. This is all that I think about, is death and dying, and I don't want to do this anymore. When open enrollment came, I left one HMO and went to another one. I got some validation there. The first thing the oncologist said is, who did this to you? Who removed your right breast, left you with this big left one? Your posture's shifting. You've been burned. Who did this to you? This is a medical lawsuit. And I just started wailing. And the doctor's like, what is wrong? I said, you're the first medical professional that's even come close to validating how I feel. And he says, you have a lot to deal with. He says, not only did you deal with trauma, but stuff within your childhood and to your trauma, it's all just balled up into one big mass. And he says, you have to quit. My last time in the mental health hospital, my son basically had to take over the household and the life and paying the bills and whatnot. And he was also the one that was still in the house watching me trying to take myself out. He was under the age of 18, and that was traumatic for him. Fast forward till now, I'm not working. I'm still in therapy. I go twice a week, and I'm just trying to still find my new normal. Right now, I'm feeling very vulnerable, but I'm also feeling encouraged, because if this just helps, hearing this interview just helps one woman, then it hasn't gone in vain. If you're battling the mental health piece, you're not alone, and you're not crazy, and it's okay. It's okay to reach out for help. Yes, seek therapy, seek help, and if necessary, use mental health medication. It's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't make you less than. It helps you to heal and helps you to get to that new place of normal, wherever normal one may be.